Are menopause symptoms permanent? That's a great question. Let's talk about how long the symptoms last and if they last forever. The symptoms of menopause are not permanent, but they can last a very, very long time. I've actually had patients in my practice have symptoms of menopause last for 15 to 20 years. It's not unusual to see a menopausal woman who went through the change in her 50s finally become symptom-free and then have a recurrence of symptoms, typically hot flashes, insomnia, and irritability and fatigue in her mid-60s to early 70s, which is more of an issue with her adrenal glands. You see, all the symptoms of menopause are caused by your declining sex hormones. When estrogen falls, you're more likely to have insomnia and hot flashes. As progesterone falls, you're more likely to have anxiety and irritability. Low estrogen can cause low libido and bone loss. Low testosterone can actually cause a loss of lean body mass, like bone and muscle tissue. So it's not uncommon to see menopause symptoms last so long because they start in perimenopause. As soon as you start having irregular periods, because you're running out of eggs, which means you're producing less estrogen, and you're not ovulating, so you hardly produce any progesterone, you're going to start to see symptoms of menopause. You're still perimenopausal because you still have a few eggs left. You're not quite menopausal yet since you haven't had that very last period. So the perimenopausal time can last for 5 to 15 years, and then menopause lasts a couple of years. And it takes at least 2 years of not having any periods at all before we consider you truly menopausal, which can be confirmed by measuring your FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. Now, FSH is a reflection of how much estrogen you make. It's a negative feedback system, so the lower your estrogen is, the higher your FSH is. If FSH is staying well over 30, then you are in menopause. But menopause symptoms can recur again about 10 to 15 years after that last period. And I call this adrenopause because it's your adrenal glands that keep your sex hormones feeling somewhat stable after your ovaries no longer function. And that stability in your sex hormones is because your adrenal glands produce pregnenolone, which is converted to DHEA, which then can be converted into testosterone as well as into estrogen, which will give you some level of sex steroids, which kind of cushions that rapid decline of your sex hormones and lessens the symptoms somewhat. But it doesn't last forever. About 10 to 15 years after you go through menopause, your adrenals get kind of pooped out too, and they make less of their own hormones. And what you're going to notice is that you become symptomatic again, as if you're going through menopause all over again. My patients who have gone through an adrenopause are very surprised at how symptomatic they are, and it's because their adrenals are just so tired from chronic stress. So supporting adrenal functions is super important to maintaining some balance in your sex steroids during and after menopause. The best way to support your adrenal function is to actually support your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus controls all of your hormone levels, including your adrenals. And if it's well supported, you're going to have better adrenal function for longer. Now, we talk a lot about these symptoms of menopause in our hormone support group. You can access the hormone support group through our hormone reboot training. It's a great place to have conversations with other women who are going through the change, and you'll be able to ask me questions during our weekly Facebook Lives. Now, supporting your hypothalamus is just really crucial because it allows for you to transition through menopause a lot more gracefully. You'll be less symptomatic and the symptoms won't feel so permanent. And your adrenals are better supported by supporting your hypothalamus, so you're less likely to go through what feels like menopause all over again when your adrenals go through a pause of their own in your mid-60s. Personally, I was able to go through menopause at about the same age as my mother did, which was in her late 50s. And I'm sure it's because I've been supporting my hypothalamus since I was in my late 30s with Genesis Gold. Now, I have sisters who are younger than I am, and they all went through the change of life a lot earlier. And even though we share the same genetics and basically live very similar lifestyles, similar diet and exercise, the difference is I supported my hypothalamus and they didn't. You too can shorten the length of menopausal symptoms so it doesn't feel like it's so permanent by supporting your hypothalamus. Now stay tuned for my next video.